here on page 147, in the middle of the page. For instance, a person can meditate. This is speaking about this method of studying before prayer. Does anyone want to read? Right here. For instance, please, Julie, go for it.
For instance, a person can meditate on the meaning of gratitude. He begins from the simplest notion, acknowledging the good that another has done. He then considers in-depth questions such as, what is appreciation composed of? What is the nature of its being? How does it connect us to God? Having delved into these questions from every angle, he brings the topic to his prayer. He searches for the themes of appreciation and gratefulness in the words that he is reciting, in his praise, requests, supplications, and thanks. All of these now reflect appreciation until he reaches the modem, the Rabbanan. We thank you. For that, we thank you. The foundation stone and preface of all prayer is to thank God for the gift of being able to pray.
Right, and this is as an example. Thanks, gratitude, the prayer of gratitude. But it's interesting to note that, in fact, the morning service which is the dominant service, is divided really into three categories. Right, the first category is gratitude, or what is called in Hebrew odaya. The second category is praise, shevach, which begins with yishtabach, which means may he be praised. The third category is the category of request, bakasha, where we start asking God for the things that we need. Now, it's interesting that the first category is a category of gratitude. And in fact, it's not just the first category of prayer, but it's the first thing we do in the morning. As soon as we wake up, we say the Modani prayer, the prayer of gratitude, because that really is the foundation to everything, to life itself. Gratitude is what enables us then to connect with God, but also what enables us to live with God and to live a meaningful life. Without gratitude, we really are become almost disconnected with God. You know, it's interesting because the word for Jew means many things. The word Yehudi or Yehudiya means many things. It can mean glory from the word Hod, but it also means gratitude. It comes from the word Hoda'ah. Because the first thing a Jew does is recognize that he has to be grateful to the creator of the world that has given him what he has given him. You know, just to mention, but I remember reading a letter, a response letter by the Lubavitcher Rebbe to a person who was obviously complaining about anything and everything. I don't know if you know those chronic complainers. Do you know any of those? but they some of them even had the audacity to write to the Lubavitcher Rebbe about their complaints. And the Rebbe did something quite brilliant in this response that I read. And he said to this person, let me juxtapose for you two different people. One is a Holocaust survivor. The other one is Adam, the very first human being. Adam had everything. If you think about it, he was the largest owner of real estate in the world. There was no one else but him. God created him, and really he had everything. He had it all. He was created by God also, so he was also divine, like in the literal sense. And he owned everything. The Holocaust survivor during the Holocaust had nothing. Really, everything was taken away from those people. But look what's interesting, the Rebbe continues. Adam had everything, but what was he obsessed about? The thing that he could not have, that tree of knowledge that he could not eat from. The Holocaust, many of these Holocaust survivors, many of the people who were in the Holocaust, they had nothing, but they mustered the courage every morning to wake up and say, Modeh ani, I thank you, Hashem. And the Rebbe concluded, you see, you can have everything, but have nothing. You could have nothing, but have everything. The choice is in your hands. This person was complaining, obviously, had a lot, but they weren't focusing on that. And because they weren't focusing on that, they were so miserable. And the Rebbe was trying to say, look, you can have nothing, and you, thank God, don't have nothing, but you can have nothing and yet have everything if you're able to be grateful. And that's the power, really, of gratitude. And I think that's why also the foundation of prayer is the foundation of the Jewish day. Then when we focus on that which we do have, then it breeds happiness, no doubt, but it also breeds meaning, and it breeds a divine connection, which is the power, the purpose of prayer altogether, recognizing that God has given us all these blessings, that we are not alone in this world, that God is enveloping us with his blessings. By the way, at another point again about the Lubavitcher Rebbe had no children, and he once said that all my Hasidim are my children. But there was also a parent who came to complain about his children, and my children are listening to me, my children this, my children that, maybe like a regular parent would do. But the Rebbe responded to this parent, from your words, I understand that you have children. Do you know what I would give in order to have children? Well, sometimes we just focus on all these trivialities that we forget what to be grateful for, the blessings that we actually have. And that's why, again, it's the foundation of everything. Yes, Linda.
Well, two thoughts came up to me when you were talking about that. The first is sometimes when something terrible happens and we're so distraught, really, it gives us a very important lesson that ultimately we might become very grateful for having been given that lesson, because it can redirect our life into a much better place.
Mhm.
You know, and so it's just kind of recognizing that from what you initially think is bad, good can come.
Right.
And not, and so to take it all in, because it can be transformed.
Very good. Very good. I think, yeah, absolutely. Great gratitude gives birth to many, many blessings. But I think in the context of prayer, again, what it does is that opens up our eyes to God, to the source of blessings. And without that, we really cannot have any connection with God. And that's why, again, prayer begins with gratitude. To connect to God, we need to be grateful to God. Otherwise, really, there's no point even in prayer. You know, by the way, it's quite amazing, but there's no coincidence in life. They say that the Hasidic Mendel Futerfas would say that coincidence is God's 11-letter word. It's an 11-letter word, right? Coincidence, is it?
Yes.
So it's God's 11-letter word. It's God. It's another way God communicates with us. But next week is Thanksgiving, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah,
Thanksgiving.
23rd, yeah.
So there you go. We speak about thankfulness and gratitude on the eve of Thanksgiving. Okay, let's continue. Let's continue maybe a little bit more. Otherwise, please speak your mind. You know, I want to say, but do you know that it's interesting because what is the first time? When is the first time that we encounter this notion of gratitude in the Torah? Does anyone know? It's fascinating because Adam and Eve, I mean, maybe are not so grateful. And then, I mean, there are people that sacrifice Abel, but who's the first one to say thank you to God? First one to say thank you to God really is Abraham. And he says thank you to God, even when he has many reasons not to say thank you to God. His life was not smooth sailing, as we all know. But who's the first Jew again? Abraham. So not only do we have it at the foundation of prayer, not only do we have it at the foundation of every day, not only do we have it in our own name, but here we have it in the foundation of our own history. So it's just such a fundamental notion that without it, we're almost losing a part of ourselves. Okay, let's continue. 147. Yes, why not? Go for it.
Concentration does not mean that one must interpret every word anew, but that one tries repeatedly to see the inner meaning that forms within every word of prayer. There is no need to change any word nor its meaning. One must only understand its implications as if for the first time. That type of study takes hold of him and electrifies him as it draws into itself all the words of prayer and gives them new meaning.
Right. So I want to go a little bit deeper into this. And that is that, you know, it's interesting because Hasidic teachings really develop this idea very, very much. And that is that there are really two steps to any type of meaningful connection. Again, if we're speaking about prayer now, so we're speaking about connection with God. There are two steps to any type of connection, whether it's relationships or whether it's connection with text, with studying, or connections with anything else. The first step is to lose yourself. And that is what Hasidic masters called bitul, which means really nullification or self-nullification. You cannot really connect to something if you have ego, because your ego is in the way. So you really have to lose yourself. You have to nullify yourself completely in order to be able to absorb. The parable that's very often used in Hasidic teachings is an empty vessel. If your vessel is full, you can't absorb anything. You have to empty out your vessel. So empty out your vessel, your own vessel, you're from ego completely. That's called bitul. Some even say that bitul needs what's called bitush. Bitush is another Hebrew word that is harsh. Bitush means crushing. Sometimes what you have in your vessel is not liquid, it's solid. So what do? You have to crush it. You have to crush it or burn it. You have to, in a way, find ways not to, God forbid, beat yourself down, which is always a terrible thing to do, but find ways to say to yourself that, hey, you're not, like Rabbi Steinsaltz once told someone, that you're not so big to make yourself so small. It's a very powerful line. But that you're not that big, that there's so much more you can learn, so much more that you can achieve. So that's sometimes the bitush that a person needs. But that's step one. And that exists here in prayer. And this is what this is saying also, that you've emptied yourself, that now that thing that's taking over you is electrifying you, because it's something that you, with your ego, could not really have ever achieved or ever fathomed. That's number one. Number two, and that's the most important step of any type of connection, is after you've emptied your vessel, then to fill your vessel so that you become a channel to that which filled you. So if I'm in a relationship with God, and this is what we're speaking about, then the whole purpose of prayer is not just for God to fill me up and then I feel good, because LSD can do that too, and cocaine can do that too, and other things can do that too. Not that I'm advocating for any of those, but then the problem with that is that you stay up there, and then the downfall is even worse. But what you do after prayer is take God with you. God doesn't stay in the synagogue. God comes with you in your working place. God comes with you in your home, in your kitchen, in your bedroom. That's where God comes with you. You become that channel of God with that which filled you. Okay, with God that filled you. And that's the most important step of prayer and of any really meaningful connection. It's true with relationships. If I'm in a relationship, then my love cannot turn into a selfish love. Then what's the whole point? It's got to be. It's got to transform me in many ways. It's got to make me into a better person. It's going to make me selfless, and also it has to give me the ability to then translate it into good actions. So that's true for every relationship. But here in the context of prayer, it's especially true. And this is what we're talking about here is really the first step, that we have this concentration, which helps us empty our vessel, and then it electrifies us once that godliness fills our vessel. But let's also remember, and I think this is where Rabbi Steinsaltz is going to, that it can't stay there. It's got to reach that second level. Otherwise, it can be very, very even, I would say, dangerous. You know, I want to relate it to this week's portion, because this week's portion is named Toldot, which means generations. Right? We speak about Abraham and Isaac, Toldot Yitzchak and Avram, Avram Olidet Yitzchak. And what the Kabbalists really teach is that Abraham's genius was not the fact that he was a visionary and that he changed the world. That anyone can do. The question is, after you've done that, can you then create some continuity to the vision that changed the world? It's true on a minor level. There are many, they call them one-time stars. You see that in the sports world. Mm-hmm. They show up, and I don't know if you remember, I don't know if anyone follows basketball here. There was the guy, I remember, Jeremy Lin, was an incredible point guard for the Knicks. And everyone was saying this is the next big thing, and then he disappeared the next year. They have many examples like that in the music world and every other world. What? One-time wonders. Yeah.
One-hit wonders.
One-hit wonders. There you go. One-hit wonders. And so that's nice, fine. They change, they feel maybe temporarily, but nothing comes out of them really. And here, the ultimate type of connection is gained, toldot. Avram was a man of the world, but he was also able to ensure his continuity through his son and through many other ways. Toldot is really the legacy of Abraham that continues through us until this very day. And that's what Abraham is celebrated for. Not so much for the vision and the changing of the world, but really for his ability to toldot. That's why we dedicate a whole parsha, a whole portion to that notion. There's no portion that's called chazon, vision, even though Abraham had the greatest vision in the world. But vision is one thing, that's great. Even if you actualize it, that's also great. But can you create some continuity to it? If yes, then you've really achieved the greatest type of connection. And that's what Abraham did, and that's what we celebrate. Toldot, not chazon, is what we celebrate. Anyway, that's just to connect this idea here to the portion. Let's continue on. Unless, again, I don't want to be monologuing here. Everyone's so quiet today, so please feel free to speak your minds. That's what it's about.
Rabbi?
Yes, please, Gila.
So in losing yourself, so there's all kinds of, sort of psychological manifestations and
Right.
ideas about what does it mean to lose yourself? What is your methodology for losing yourself?
Well, it's not mine. I don't have a personal methodology. But I do think that that's a Jewish methodology. That's a Hasidic one also by Hasidic masters. But then when a person studies, first and foremost, there has to be zero connection with this world, which, by the way, starts with this: no phone, no noise. You can Breslev Hasidim, for example, they go and do what's called hitbodedut, which they isolate themselves in forest. I remember living in Jerusalem, next to a forest. In the middle of the night, you would hear shouts from the forest, and those were Breslev Hasidim who were shouting Nachman, Nachman. That's how they do it, and they were isolating themselves. But the point is, you divorce yourself from this world altogether. That's number one. That's one methodology, and then another methodology is simply to focus on one teaching and repeat it time and time again until it permeates. Rabbi Steinsaltz would do that. I saw him do that many times. One notion could be a very esoteric notion, but still, you repeat it, and the more you repeat it, the more it enters. The more it does both bitush and cleanses your vessel, so to speak. There are many other methods. I mean, another method is a method that's maybe a little more common, and that is that you come out of yourself by doing a mitzvah. What mitzvahs do more than anything is not only do mitzvahs do good, but they almost force you to come out of your ego, because you have to be attentive to others. You have to be giving to others. So by giving to others, you lose yourself also, because you've joined with someone else, right?
Yes.
So that's another method. I mean, everyone has their own method, but these are three. Yeah, no, sure. Good question though. What's your let me ask your wife first. What's your methodology? That's my question.
Oh boy. Nature.
Nature, okay,
nature,
yeah.
Looking at the sky.
Yeah.
Looking at the clouds.
Mm-hmm.
Just absorbing the enormity of the cosmos, of what Hashem
Right.
has created, and then one becomes lost in that connection,
Mm-hmm.
because you can't think of yourself when you're absorbing
right.
the wonders of the universe that
Very
Hashem
good.
has created. So
Very
for
good.
me,
By the way,
it's-
that's great. Maimonides says to do that. That's Maimonides' method. That's
wow.
beautiful. You see?
Nature, really?
Nature, yeah. Yeah. Very good. Yes, Ma.
Pretty simple question. Say you're doing a midah, you're going through it, and you come to Shu Shalom or Elohim, and you enjoy saying that prayer within a midah, and you lose track of where everyone else is, which I actually do frequently, because I can't keep up anyway.
No, but that's great. That means you're actually concentrating.
Rushing to get to be with,
Right.
so that the repetition. So, right?
Yes, yes. As long as you start with the congregation, then you can go according to your own rhythm. Yes, most congregations go fast because people, want to go eat or want to move on. But as long as you start, it's like a train station. You start, you're on the train, and then you can do what you want in the train. But
And then when you get to, let's say you only get to Shin Shalom or somewhere in that area, and they started the repetition, and they're getting close to
fine,
division. Do you stop and jump?
No.
with them? Stay with where you are.
stay with where you are.
And
in the
then
middle of the
you
month.
say Shalom and back.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, good question. Yeah. As long as you start again with the congregation. The point is that the congregation is almost like the launching pad. So you've been launched, and then there are many rockets in that launching pad. So you have your own rocket, and your rocket has its own rhythm, has its own concentrations, etc. So
So
fine,
when
yeah.
God goes out for Birkat Kohanim,
yes,
then,
that's a different story, right? Because then
so then if it becomes down, then he just keeps going with everybody else.
well, yeah, Birkat Kohanim is his as a Cohen, that's your responsibility towards the congregation. So I don't know if that's what you're alluding to. That you're
That's a
asking,
good question.
right? What if you're in the middle of your own prayer when you have to do Birkat Kohanim?
Oh,
Is that the question?
no,
No.
okay.
No, but the other question I have about Birkat Kohanim
Yes.
is like, I remember Chicago, some people left the room because whatever, I don't know, I didn't ask. So are you supposed to look at them, or what are we supposed to do?
Oh, that's okay, the priestly blessing we're speaking about when the Kohanim bless the congregation. So
But
when
they
the
turn around, they face the eye.
yeah, that's right. They turn towards us. And they turn towards us. They turn around towards us. They don't face the ark. Their backs are to the ark. That's right. You turn towards us. You should not look at them when they're blessing you. That's why we have the talits usually covered that are covering us. You shouldn't look at them. Why shouldn't you look at them? It's a custom that really started in a temple, in the Jerusalem temple, where the priest will bless us. And that is because when they bless us, you are the recipient of that blessing. To be the recipient of that blessing, nothing can block the receiving of the blessing. You looking at them can create that blockage. Why can it create that blockage? Because when you look at them, you may start judging them. Oh, they really want a blessing from this person. Oh, I don't know, he's not in a good mood today. Should I, shouldn't I? So no, focus on just receiving the blessing. Focus on being an empty vessel, like we were saying before.
Go don't to turn around, but some places turn around. I've been to synagogues
Where they turn their backs to the Kohen?
no, so the Kohen is facing us, but the congregant turns towards the wall. I've seen that.
So you have your back to the Kohen. That's what you're saying. No. Then how can you receive a blessing if you have your back towards no. But that's regarding the priestly blessing. Yes, that's right. Exactly.
In Venice, when they would leave the demon, they would still have their heads covered and nobody would.
Right.
They got induced.
Very good.
Well, look at
That's right.
Well, we can look at my.
And-
Sorry.
But if that's the way they do it in Venice, then that's the way Venice. No, but really, Venice has some of the oldest and the most rooted traditions. Yeah, è la verità.
I
Okay.
think it makes sense. I mean, I'm kind of picturing and thinking and
Right.
feeling what you're saying.
Receiving.
And receiving, and
Right.
that's sometimes hard for us as
Yeah.
humans, to
Right.
just sit and receive.
Right.
a blessing.
Mhm.
Without, like you say, without questioning it, or is this really what I need, or.
Just be an empty vessel, even
and
close your eyes,
empty
yeah,
And just trust and know that this is exactly.
right,
And be open to receiving it.
very good.
Yeah.
And I can see like light, like
Mm.
the streaming of light.
Coming towards, yeah,
coming.
yeah, very good. Okay, let's continue. All right, so 148 here. This experience is not a rare phenomenon. So why not?
This experience is not a rare phenomenon. To the contrary, we constantly experience its equivalent in other areas of our lives. When a person desires something passionately, when he has a memory of an experience or a strong emotion, he will find it everywhere and in everything, while working or being at home, walking in the street, or meeting people. Anything will cause him to awaken the emotion, directly or indirectly, as a similarity or as a contrast. For instance, if a person's supposed relative is ill, then he relates every blessing, every request, every song in the prayer service to that. He's not able to understand the words of prayer in any other way.
Right. So if you become an empty vessel and you let God fill you up, and this is what this is saying, then all you think of is God. No matter what your interactions are afterwards during the day, you're so infatuated by God that all you can think of is God. And that is really the ideal state, because by having that type of connection, really we remain connected above, and then nothing really can enable us to fall below. Remember the story we shared it, I think last class, a few classes ago, about the Lubavitcher Rebbe who climbed to the highest peak of the tree, and they asked him as a young child, how did you do it? He said, look, I never looked down. When I climbed the tree, I always looked up. And that's how I was able to climb to the highest peak. And his mother had asked him the question, said, well, that's a lesson for life, that if you look up and you stay connected above, then you can't fall below. And in many, many ways, that's what prayer should achieve, should do to each and every one of us. And we're so infatuated by God that we became so one with God that no matter what happens to us during the day, we can't fall. Now, it's not an easy level to reach, especially if you know what you go through throughout the day can be sometimes very, very tough. But what it should at least achieve is that you're not alone in this world. You're always with God. You know, one of the great Holocaust survivors I met is a man named Nissan Mengel. Nissan Mengel is actually the translator of many of the prayer books that we have here. The blue prayer books, the Tehillat Hashem prayer book, well, he translated. He starts his number right here tattooed and everything. But he spoke about how he almost died during the death march towards the end of the war. He was in this death march for days and days and days in this freezing cold weather. And at one point he thought to himself, that's it, I'm going to collapse. There's nothing I can do. And, you know, if you collapse, they would shoot you or they would just let you die there in the freezing cold. And what saved him was a story that he had heard from his grandfather. A story that he had heard from his grandfather on the way to shul with his grandfather on a Shabbat morning. He would walk every Shabbat, and one Shabbat morning, his grandfather told him the following story. He said, look, the Baal Shem Tov was once in the middle of the Shabbat service, and all of a sudden this man came to the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement, and said to the Baal Shem Tov, I don't know what to do because I feel really torn. I'm here right now praying with you, which is really what I want, to pray with the Baal Shem Tov. There's no experience like this. But on the other hand, my wife is in the 9th month of pregnancy. She's supposed to give birth. And I feel like I abandoned her. I don't know if she's going to give birth now or not. The Baal Shem Tov said, well, then go be with your wife. He said, I'd love to go be with my wife, but we live on the other side of the forest. And the forest right now at this time is filled with bandits and everything. I don't know what to do. They might rob me. They might attack me. Baal Shem Tov said, go be with your wife. Go cross the forest, and you don't have to be worried, because remember, a Jew never walks alone. He reached the other side of the forest safely, and that was the day his wife gave birth, apparently, and everything went well. And Nissan Mengel says that he remembered the story during the death march. that everything in his body told him just to quit. But then the words of his grandfather, of the Baal Shem Tov, through his grandfather, came ringing in his ears. The Jew never walks alone. He says, I'm not alone. God is helping me walk. And that gave him the strength really to continue on. And thank God he survived, and he tells the story until this very day. But I'm saying that that's really, if there is one goal to prayer, this should be a goal that can be achieved by every one of us. That during prayer, we are so taken aback by God, we're so infatuated with God, that even when we feel like we're alone during the day, we say to ourselves, no, we never walk alone. God is always with us. That's really the goal. And that can only be achieved, again, if we become empty vessels and we allow God to fill our own vessels. Yes, Joyce.
I don't know if this is appropriate to share, but I have to
Please,
share it.
please, yeah.
When I first moved here, I have friends, from all different national religions and so forth. But anyway, we were walking in a labyrinth.
Mm.
And it was a morning, a Saturday morning, we were walking the labyrinth. And then afterwards we talk. And excuse my.
Please, yeah.
So, there's all the lava rocks in making this beautiful labyrinth.
Right.
And all of a sudden I'm myself, I'm walking this myself, silence. And all of a sudden I hear, as you're walking, I am with you. As you're walking, love is near. As you're walking, I am with you. As you're walking, do not fear.
Mm.
And I started to hear it like a chant. As you're walking, I am with you. As you're walking, love is near. As you're walking, I am with you. As you're walking, do not fear. And it's like,
Right.
It was very powerful.
Right.
And why it just came to me now, from what you were saying.
Yeah.
It is,
Right.
I hope that's appropriate, but everything talks.
No,
to me.
absolutely.
And
Very good.
Hashem
Very good.
talks
But that's
to
the idea. That's right. You must have you must be a really good prayer. You know how to pray, in other words,
Yeah.
if that's the way you feel. That's great.
It was
But-
so touching
Yeah.
what you said,
Right.
and it
Right.
just awakened that
Right.
in me
Right.
deeply.
Very good. If I may add, though, that the goal really is to feel God not just during our low times, but even, and yes, I'll add the word even, during our high times. Because during our low times, it's easy to feel God because we need him. That's why in Psalm 23, if you think about this, no one pays attention to this, but it's a psalm that everyone knows, right? I walk in the valley of the shadow by death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. But the verse, the chapter 23 begins with relating to God as a he, not as a thou, not as a you. Right? Mizmor David Hashem roi lo echsar. Be not deshe, in green pastures, he leads me. So what happened to King David there?
Mhm.
Are you relating to God in this chapter as a he in the third party, or as a you? And the answer is very simple. When I'm in green pastures and everything is tranquil and calm, then God is somewhere. I don't need God. I don't need you. Goodbye.
Mhm.
He's a he. But when I'm in the valley overshadowed by death, then I need God. Then he becomes a you.
Mhm.
Right? Ataimadi, you are with me. But really the goal should be that we should feel God not just during low times, but also when everything is good,
Mhm.
when we're in green pastures, when we're tranquil. The goal of prayer is to give us that sense that God is with us even there, because that's the human inclination, to abandon God when everything is good.
Back to gratefulness.
Back to gratefulness.
Yes.
That's right.
Full circle.
Very good. No, thank you. You're right. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.